This week on the Strong Life podcast, I interview Jeff Nichols, owner of Virginia High Performance and former Navy SEAL. Enjoy the show. And welcome to the Strong Life podcast. I'm your host and your boy, Zach Evanesh, the founder of the Underground Strength Gym. And each and every Strong Life podcast, we're going to talk to you guys about what it really takes to develop a strong body, a strong mind, and to live a strong life. Up in these neck of the woods, we ain't got time to be weak. We've only got time to kick ass and take names in life. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, action. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us here at the Strong Life podcast. I'm here with my friend, Jeff Nichols. He's based in Virginia Beach, and he runs Virginia High Performance. It's an amazing facility, and I got to meet Jeff, luckily, at SOAR Next Summer Strong, and I'm pretty sure he'll be there again. He's been getting a lot of consultations and traveling all around, and a very smart guy. We're going to talk about, as always, the blending of strength in life, strength in the gym, overcoming obstacles, and a lot of people asked to have Jeff on the show, which is great. They had seen his presentation that is available at Juggernaut Training Systems from the SOAR Next Summer Strong. So we're going to dig in. Jeff, how's it going, brother?
No complaints yet. It's Friday.
Well, just speaking of complaints, do you ever catch yourself complaining about stuff, honestly, and you're like, why the hell am I complaining about anything? Do you ever catch yourself in that?
No, I do. It's funny. I was complaining yesterday a little bit to my girlfriend that about how uncomfortable first class was from San Diego yesterday. So, but that's just, the wear and tear of my previous life tends to kind of catch up to me time to time. And then people, like specifically my partner, will tell me to shut up because we've all been there. I mean, I think that's the thing. If you've been in the iron game or the military, you've been an athlete, you've been banged up. So, yeah, unfortunately, we all do.
Yeah, the problem is also once you're in first class, you don't ever want to go. You don't ever want to go sit in
Right.
coach. But sometimes it's good to sit and coach. I always say it reminds me to just keep my boots on the ground and not get spoiled. And I had read a couple of years ago, people were asking Richard Branson if his kids fly first class, and he said no, they fly coach until they could pay for first class on their own.
Right, and I think it's funny because it's I didn't necessarily pay for it because of the years of service and travel. I've accumulated all those miles, and it's not really a badge of honor that you're if you're elite status or whatever, you travel too much. That's really my point, I guess. It's not the seat, it's the travel.
It's true. So you've opened up Virginia High Performance. I mean, like 6 months ago, or how?
Actually, it's been it's been obviously when the build out and everything. It seems a lot longer, but the doors have officially only been open since December 1st, so a little over 3 months, where we've been seeing athletes on a day basis.
Okay, so pretty interesting. And as we mentioned before, getting into the recording, as I said, man, I was shocked. Not only did you open a gym, I mean, this is, I'll post photos at undergroundstrength.tv and they could go to your website. But this is not the kind of gym that I run, a small warehouse gym where it's just kind of minimal managerial. And when you and I chatted, you're like, hey, man, life is good. I'm just trying to get some extra time on the rocking chair on the front porch and relax a little bit. And then I see this huge place. I mean, you've got a real advanced, forward-thinking operation going on at Virginia High Performance. So I want to talk about why do you take training to this level? Because you're a former military. You've trained in very shitty environments, so you could get the job done without really stellar environment. What made you say we need to go not just high level but next level with what you're doing over there?
Right. I've been a credentialed strength coach for almost 15 years. I was a strength coach at Troy University before I came into the Navy. Spent 11 years in the Navy. I was a SEAL on both coasts, and over those 11 years, when guys would go on leave, they'd come home from deployment, and I've done almost 20. They come home from deployment, you go on leave with family or friends or whatever. And for me, I didn't. I typically didn't go on leave. I would find things in the exercise science or coaching realm, and I would go do those seminars and those sort of coaching clinics. And that for me was a way to kind of unplug my body and brain, because I would attach myself to something I was passionate about, teaching and coaching, specifically youth athletics. So, I get out of the Navy, and I was consulting for a couple of performance apparel companies and footwear companies that I had been developing with while I was in the Navy, and I kept coming across clients that I would help out and coach and train, and then it just got to the point where all those clients were saying, "Do you have a place? Because I want to come train with you," and I didn't. So basically, family. He's my closest friend. And he was a teammate of mine, and he and I had been wanting to do, so within the Navy, the human performance program really took shape under myself and my partner and a civilian friend of ours while under the Navy. Well, we wanted to bring that mentality and model to the civilian world, and it was kind of born out of necessity because he and I started getting so many clients. So, fortunately, we have some really close friends of ours that helped us financially along the way. And I wanted to mold a facility with a mentality, kind of take all the good pieces that you see, all the good pieces from professional athletics, from amateur athletics, from college and youth athletics. And Mason. And my son's trying to climb in. Sorry about that.
No, that's all of my. I'd say there's a lot of YouTube videos of my son climbing on my head or shooting me with Nerf guns during these interviews. So it's totally cool. Hey, buddy, what's up? How old are you?
So
how old is he?
Yeah. He's got all his camouflage on, so he's all kid, which is good.
I didn't even see him.
Yeah, right. So. Again, like kind of born out of necessity. We really had a passion for it, and we took the same sort of intense mentality from being a SEAL to this environment. Now, there's nothing about this place that really speaks to being a SEAL or anything, because it's important to us we have our identity outside of that. I really love where I came from and appreciate that, but we wanted a facility where we could bring that intensity and love for it, specifically for youth athletics, and have those kids experience what they may experience or should hopefully experience if they go on beyond high school and play at a known established university or college, where they're going to get that sort of coaching and teaching that I think that kids need and deserve. And so that was really the catalyst, is let's bring these kids in, build really good rapport with them, their coaches, their parents, give them very good coaching and teaching that is based off of, that's result and science-based both, and then just build on it. Because I think the big disservice, and the thing with you is that what I've seen is you teach a lot of kids, and there's nothing better. There truly is nothing better. I mean, arguably college students are kids too. They're just bigger kids, but for me, that's everything. Like, to be that sort of mentor and coach and teacher, there's nothing better is being with kids. I have some adult clients as well, but that's really the catalyst for all this, is just make a difference, like truly.
Yeah, now, when I think of my youth and just the lack of knowledge when I was younger, and of course, what I wish I had, what I could have had, that inspires me. And I've also, I tell people straight up, like, if I didn't come across working out or training or whatever we want to call it, like, I think that really saved me, saved my life, gave me purpose. So just, I want to back up if we can, and why are you so connected to training youth? Because it is, from a business perspective, it's one of the toughest areas to work with. And I tell this to coaches all the time. Parents, they sometimes don't understand really the difference between Jeff Nichols and Virginia High Performance versus the guy who's maybe just close and in town and could save them $50 or $100 a month and save them 15 minutes driving. And
Right.
it's hard. I mean, it's easier to train adults because we essentially pretty much know they're going to be consistent. They have 2 weeks of vacation a year. With kids, we have in season, off season, family vacation. Does mom and dad want to drive? Do mom and dad, want to make the investment, or do they think that John Smith around the corner is the same because he has kettlebells and whatnot? So, what was there something in your younger days that is really inspiring you to do this? There's not a lot of people being committed to youth on the level that you and I are at. They kind of see it as more of a pain in the ass and would rather not.
Right. No, and I agree. It's a tough model to get. Everyone. I say a lot of people that go down not so much the fitness type thing when they open their own facility. I think a lot of people in their head have in mind to do a performance center targeting athletes. But like you said, it's a tough battle because your demographic is typically needing a ride to get to you.
Yes.
And also the seasonal shifts. And then when you lose them in the off season, typically, or I'm sorry, in the in season when they start their sport, it's like you have this downtime potentially. And then are you going to get in the next season? There's no guarantees. So it's a tough model. But a couple things here in Virginia Beach, where I live, athlete, and again, it's similar nationally, just depending where you're from. But there's a ton of athletes here, a ton, right? So the population is dense. Number two, it's kind of we competitors or otherwise, we kind of looked at it and we're like, there's nobody that has this model. And it was, again, being super blessed financially with the people that are backing us. I don't have to worry about bills at all. So again, super blessed, super spoiled in that regard. Now we do make money, of course, but we have that opportunity to kind of fail where a lot of people didn't. So that's helped us out in terms of just charging hard. And then, why kids? I think from my youth, again, reading your book, it seems like you tried everything, and then kind of at the end of it, you figured it out the right way because you've tried all the bad things, and then when you bounce that off of the historical successes of bodybuilders and powerlifters, you look at it and go, that's kind of what I ended up doing. I'm doing it right. And that's how you kind of validate it. Well, same thing. As I was going through high school and college, I kind of figured it out, and then I realized, looking back, it's like it was a tough struggle. And if I had known then what I knew now, what would I have made myself into? And I think that's why I do it, is because now, after doing this I was doing some youth camps for the last year or two, volleyball and soccer and baseball and football and stuff. But so I had some clientele already, to plug right in. But when I did, when my partner and I started going down this road and we started teaching kids, it was immediately like the kids and parents, they would all say, wow, this is what I anticipated when they went to facility X here in Virginia. That's what they're getting here. That's what all the parents anticipated they'd be getting there. Well, they came here, and a lot of my clients, their kids, their parents played college athletics. So they're like, hey, this is exactly what I experienced when I was at Old Dominion University or University of Virginia or whatever. So they look at it and go, wow, this is where we want our home to be. And so we're not even getting just teams now. We're getting entire clubs to sign up with us. So we're getting 700 soccer players at a time.
That's crazy.
So that's what we're doing. We're in 3 months, we're at 1,500 athletes.
How the hell are you managing that?
We have to build another facility. So we're looking to build another facility.
And train coaches under you, I guess.
Yeah, so I've got 5 interns lined up already.
Good.
Summer. So it's like you said, spending more time on the rocking chair isn't looking so good over the next couple months. But it's a good problem to have, because my goal is just like yours and just like Pete Bomarito or anybody that's kind of in our world, is to be busy and to give the best product we can, where people look at it and go, they did their best and they did it ethically. And that's huge.
Yes, I like that you said that. It's there's the two sides to that, is that you could, you have to learn to thrive in chaos. And you said it's a great problem to have. And I think that's, the mindset is going to be the ticket when things happen to you, whether it's business for people listening that are entrepreneurs, or non-entrepreneurs, you have these quote unquote problems, and you could look at these obstacles as, how do I turn this into an opportunity? How do I, get stronger from this versus crumbling? And I think the mindset of you just saying, hey, I'm ready to do this. You have an abundance mindset. You're like, we'll build another place. We've got 5 interns. We will keep going, versus saying this is too busy. Because as you start, if you were to say too busy, too much, in the strange ways of the universe, you'll find yourself not being busy enough. And I think people in general, if we just learn to thrive in being uncomfortable, and just feeling okay with that, especially as an entrepreneur. Once you realize there's just stress involved with it, you're cool with it. So, what is interesting is you're just working hard. You're not really marketing and doing, what I find is sometimes people that weren't trained in like all the marketing ways, they do great because they're so damn busy providing a great service and providing results. And this is probably one of the busiest years in my life, and a unique opportunity came up for me in kind of the same way, where people start approaching you because they see what you've done through the years. So it's cool to see that the mindset is key for success. How are you guys, blending your lessons from military, from life, and teaching the kids that? Because you're also very dialed in with the science aspect, which to me is unique coming from you, because, you mentioned being a SEAL. We know that the training of being a SEAL is not really scientific. I mean, it truly beats the crap out of you. And mentally, you have to, I call that kind of the blending of science with hell. How are you guys organizing training over there for youth? I mean, I see some real high-tech recovery stuff going on there. How are you blending kind of mind and body over there with your experience? Because you've experienced very opposite ends of the spectrum with regards to crazy training and super dialed in science. How are you blending that together?
I think it's for the first thing we're always looking at is what age group are we working with? What skill level are these kids? And even some of the adults that we train, that's the first thing, is you have to do some sort of evaluation. At all areas, you're constantly evaluating, rather than just, here's the program, do it, and then it's going to take care of itself. We kind of want to evolve beyond that, and that's based out of my experience, is that I was always really good at training, really good, and I still am. And that's typically most people's strong suit, is they can train correctly, especially since there's so much information out there. But typically, we're really bad at recovering. And recovering is people say, well, what does recovery mean? It's as difficult as if you were trying to define fitness. It's very difficult to do that. So what we did is we pick a couple recovery things that we get a lot of throughput. We can get some understanding on it, and then we have some advanced things that a little less throughput, but then takes a little bit more to get them to understand. And again, that was based off of my life, where I was just overtrained always. Now, some of the combative sports, that's kind of the nature. Endurance running, you're always overtrained. Typically, the fight game, the wrestling game, especially when there's weight classes involved, there's a good bit of overtraining and overreaching involved in that. But it's trying to manage that. So, again, what I mentioned before is what we do is an evaluation that's age appropriate, and based off of their programming. So if a 13 and under boys soccer team comes in, their training is totally different than a 17 to 18 group of women's female softball players. But based off of the intensity of that training session, whether we're doing a lot of eccentric loading, a lot of dynamic pulls, a lot of heavy sleds, those sort of things where you're getting a little more muscle breakdown, recovery is a little bit more intense, and we might use some of the modalities that will help facilitate and expedite recovery. But I think it's probably pretty similar. Some of those things that you do is that, again, I'm going to assume, but I think it's more than an assumption, that when your athletes come and see you, they're like, hey, they're not leaving the door unaware of how they should approach the rest of their day in terms of their nutrition and recovery.
Right.
You're probably saying, hey, like I always say, you don't put diesel fuel in a Ferrari, so go home and eat, right? Again, I'm super blessed and fortunate that we have I say a supplement company. It's a food company. It's Shamrock Farms. They make they call Rock and Refuel that now I think 17 of the NFL teams are using. I know the company, so I get organic chocolate milk for all my athletes. They get part of the
met
deal.
That guy. Yes.
Right. So again, super blessed and fortunate. Just so happened that my alma mater, they were the first university to use them. So kind of, through the networking, which is also very important, I was able to offer that to my athletes. So they come in, we refuel them before they leave. But it's a small piece, right? But it's that continuing education. I think that where a lot of people will fall short, young strength coaches or young business owners in this field, is that we think that because if you have all these kids and their parents or whatever or athletes that come see us, we kind of think that a lot of them when you're young, you're like, well, that's my service is done. The service is not, because when they're seeking out somebody and they're willing to pay for your service, they're looking beyond. They may not realize it, but they're looking beyond the physical component of it. They're looking at you for some component of nutritional advice. And it doesn't have to be sweeping. It doesn't have to be like, here's you go weigh your food and all those sort of things. No. And same with recovery, same with the mental side of it. Like, we want to give them nuggets all the time. And I make the story really quick is that I saw a good girls softball team here, a travel softball club that was in here. And at the end of every training session, we recover them. We spend 20 to 30 minutes, in a combination of different things. But this particular day, we had them on foam rollers and sticks and lacrosse balls on the space. And I kind of let them chat a little bit, and we start talking about leadership and some other things, just very general, right? Specifically because 13-year-old girls are very, how do I say this, politically correct. They're very judgmental. We'll say that. So they're I was like, hey, who here is really, really good grades? And this one girl was pretty embarrassed. She's like, I haven't gotten a B since I was in second grade because she's a straight A student. And all the girls kind of smelled blood and were pouncing a little bit. And I finally said, stop. I said, everyone take a look at that girl. And they're all like, what is he going to say? And I was like, that's the kind of person you're going to be working for if you don't get good grades. Like all of you. I was like, that's what your boss is going to look like right now in 10 years. I said, being an athlete's great. It's fantastic. Being a good athlete is even better. I was like, but being smart, I said, nobody likes dumb people. And I was like, it's going to behoove you. And I said, whatever your drive is, if it's success, if it's money, if it's adulation, whatever it is, I said, the one sure way to get some or all of those things is be successful. Everyone can be successful in academia. So that's just one of those things that we plug that into our athletes all the time. From the mental side it's one thing to fight and scratch and kick and claw in the gym, but you got to do that when you're out of here.
Everything.
Treat everything the same way. If our athletes attack academia like they do the gym, that would be awesome.
And it's doable too. I mean, I had a conversation with a coach yesterday, and in the public schools at least, there tends to be these phases of ups and downs, and there's been more private or prep schools popping up. And he's like, man, I don't know what's going on. He's like, but the relentless pursuit of excellence is gone. And I said, I know. I said, we have to stop being so afraid to tell parents that it's okay for John to go to practice, eat in the car, lift, go home, do homework, and find a way to make it happen versus we kind of make excuses. And it's so doable because you'll see a kid who's all state, all conference with a 4.0 GPA. So as soon as we know one person can do it, we know that it is doable. And I think that's the true, that's where the best part of being a strength coach for the youth lies is in, you're right, your window of opportunity to be an athlete, at least competing at that high school, college level is very short. Yeah, you could compete outside that. There's a lot of things that can still be competitive at. But the life lessons that you pick up from that, I always say I learned, almost everything I needed to know about life in the wrestling room and my high school wrestling room from those coaches just saying, this is what needs to get done. We have to do it. It's up to you to do the work. We're guiding you. And I just, little things like what I think about, like I wake up a little bit early, I'm tired, but that is all those things, like you said, add up. Just like, do you have the organic chocolate milk after the workout, or do you not eat 3 hours later?
Right.
It sounds like it's simple, but it adds up day after day, week after week. Every day I do 10 push-ups with my son, and I said, okay, we're just going to do 10. I'll do the push-ups with you. I go, it's 10 today. I go, what's 10 times 5? Every day after school, 50. I go, what's 50 times 4? 200. Okay, but what if we do it every day, 7 days a week? And now we're looking, 250, 300 a month. And that's how I look at things. Even shit that I don't know too many other people look at. I'm sure you do. But when I look at the athlete who shows up to train and his shoelaces are always untied,
Yep.
I feel like that adds up time after time. And that causes like him or her to miss that important shot or miss that important takedown or not be able to, finish on time. That shit adds up.
Absolutely. And that, so we it's a cultural thing. Like we try to set that immediately, where whenever an athlete comes or a team comes in, we sit the parents and coaches with the athletes down and we read off our rules. And we don't want people necessarily in like, perfectly tucked in athletics, shirt and their shorts and everything, but you're going to show up ready to train, just like you would show up to your field, whatever. If you're a wrestler, if you're a baseball, whatever, when you show up to play that game, you're in uniform or you're prepared to compete. Same thing in here. And I know that all the wrestling references were very similar to that growing up in Iowa, where I had the blessing I was around Dan Gable every Sunday for 6 years. And all those guys, and I just remember, it's one interesting little fact about, again, the University of Iowa, which is a wrestling powerhouse, is in the history since Dan Gable has been a coach there, so he's in and out as an AD now, but not a single athlete from the University of Iowa has been under a scholarship greater than 50%. Not a single one.
I didn't know that.
The highest scholarship there's ever been, and only 50% has been given out twice, to Lincoln McElravy and Jeff McGinnis. So because those athletes, like all those wrestlers at Iowa, like they don't screw. Like Dan Gable's like, if you don't get A's and B's, you don't wrestle. Period.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm trying to get my strength coach and my partner and I. We are constantly telling our athletes, hey, I challenge you to attack your academics just like you do the field or the sport that you love, and then when you come in here, do it. Just do it. Just that's your challenge. And then again, it is a challenge, but
yeah. What are some of the things that you learned being around Dan Gable that are still kind of within you today that you feel are going to stay with you through life?
Yeah, it's the simple stuff, really, because if we really get wrapped around the end result, then, and I think that's always a goal. The end result is a goal, but I think that if you look at training, that's what his thing is. Wrestling, the wins or the baseball field or whatever it is, like that's the culmination of your effort. But I think that my big thing with that is my entire life stems from the advice he gave me. He physically looked at me dead in the eye and said, hey, there's always somebody out there tougher than you. There's always somebody out there meaner than you, and there's always someone out there willing to outwork you. And then he kind of snickered and he was like, or you can be that one. And he was that one. Dan Gable was that one. And that was my entire way. As like, skill aside, we as athletes and as the SEALs or in all, especially youth athletes, they are in control of their effort. Only them. And he or she that gives the greatest effort in your training facilities, in mine, and anyone anywhere in the world. That's the beauty is it can go anywhere. It's divergent. Is if you train harder than your peers, you will be more successful. At some point, in some way, you will out-succeed them. And that, for me, was a huge drive. It's just outwork people.
Outwork people.
And that's good for any generation. Pretty much any age group can grab that concept. Whether you're a 6-year-old kid, like my son's 8, I'm just like, great. Just outwork them. All right. Then to them, that does whatever it means to them, great. If it's a 55-year-old person coming off like a motorcycle accident, had reconstruction of the hip and leg, and like, hey, I'm not expecting you to do a back squat or a jerk. Just work hard.
Right.
It's a simple concept for people to understand, and I think that's the thing is we've forgotten is what because we will the 99.99% of the population will never experience that home run in the World Series, but what we all can experience is that intrinsic feeling that we have, that internal love we have, that internal like that runner's high or that high that they get from working out. Everyone can experience that, and that's where you try to tap in here, because I don't care how good of a baseball player you are when you come in here. I care how hard you work.
Right.
So I just find I was in California at a place called the Yard this last week. So Troy Subin or Troll Subin is the trainer, and I had never met him necessarily, but he and I are doing a project anywhere, and I'm sitting there. I get there a little bit early to his place in Hermosa Beach, and I'm talking with these two guys behind his counter, just chit chatting with them. I had no idea who they were. Then Troll rolls in a minute, and he's like, "Hey, did you guys meet each other?" And I'm like, "Oh no," I just shook his hand, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Jeff," and he goes, "Hey, I'm Marshawn." I was talking to Marshawn Lynch. I had no idea who he was. Right? I had no clue. So my point is that work hard. I mean, no one. You can hide out in the gym, and no one may never know who you are, or whatever. Whether you're J.J. Watt, Marshawn Lynch, or you're a nobody wrestler from Iowa, like work hard.
Yeah,
that's all. I mean, and that really speaks to character, and that's the biggest thing my partner and I look at is that I care about your character. I do, because it's contagious, good or bad. If a group of athletes come in with really good character and work ethic, then the whole team is going to follow that mold. If you have a couple that are sour apples, it tends to kind of sour the group. So we don't mess around with that. We don't let anyone waste our time.
Yeah, those are you call them battery drainers when they like suck out your energy. And even I'm also, this is the first time I'm at a Division I university. First time really coaching outside of kind of my own rule, where I've kicked people out of the gym if it's a father that's just out of control, or if it's a kid that's, in some ways super negative, or in some ways just doesn't want to be there. I don't like taking the father's money. I tell them, listen, they got to do the work, but it's interesting when you're at the Division I level, and I had heard this long before I've got to the Division I level, that they said, somebody told me, they're like, you'll be amazed at how many of these college guys don't want to even be there. I was like, holy shit. Well, it's just it's an opportunity. I pay attention to all things. I'm a big believer in the success leaves clues, especially little stuff. And you were just mentioning that the constant work, how it accumulates. And that sometimes, we achieve the success kind of outside our window. So meaning you might be training for your high school sport or your college sport. You're working, and maybe you don't achieve success in that sport, but then it adds up. It builds momentum for you to apply it to life. I don't want to keep you much longer. I want to ask you maybe two more questions. One is a bit of like a follow-up from when we were down in South Carolina at Soar Next Summer Strong. You were really emphasizing the power of sleep, the importance of sleep. I mean, when you were talking about it, I mean, you weren't fucking around. You were really serious about it. And it kind of brings me to the conversation we had of you don't know what you have till it's gone sometimes. So what's interesting is, you were a SEAL. You guys operate traditionally through the night, not good sleep. And then afterwards, you're like, wow, I really should have been sleeping. And you were talking about when you travel, like the blinds are closed, you're putting blankets to block out hallway light through the door. What, just talk about now at your age, because a lot of people listening are in 30s, 40s, they're around our age, and even guys in their 20s and some late teens. Talk about the importance and really the power of sleep. There's some people talking about it, but I think hearing it from you, a guy who's been on the two ends of the spectrum, now taking it very serious, what's the difference maker with it?
I think the biggest thing that people have to wrap their head around when it comes to sleep is that first and foremost, the human body is resilient beyond comprehension. And what I mean specifically is that we can go without a lot of things. We can go without food for 3 weeks. We can go without water for 3 to 5 days. We can go without sleep. And we can be awake, where we can move around. We can still think we can function. But the thing is you get in some, when it comes to sleep specifically, when you're in sleep debt, it doesn't there's no 2 steps forward, 1 step back with sleep. It's always just 2 steps back, a quarter of a step back. You're always stepping backwards. And so the human body can handle it, but it's really not. I mean, especially when you're talking about athletics, because we're spending so much, just on, our brain consumes 30% of our calories. That in itself right there should, if you're sleep deprived, right, and your metabolism goes up, that 30 becomes 35 and 36 and so on, just for brain function. So, and then that's not even talking about brain repair, and brain repair happens during sleep. That's it. Your brain doesn't fix itself when you're awake, only during sleep. So, getting really on track to answer, because this is a novel type discussion, but so I'll kind of try to summarize about sleep. So, if you are sleepy all day, you're not getting enough sleep. That's kind of one of those. And if people are like, well, I just don't have time, or it's like maybe I'm getting 8 hours in bed, but I'm not getting restful sleep. Now, and then here's the link, and I'll, again, try to keep this short as possible. It's all about the central nervous system, and more or less the autonomic nervous system, not so much the peripheral. Think of the nervous system like, essentially it's like the RPM gauge on your car, right? When we train hard, this is really kind of targeted towards athletes in the military, is when we train really hard, or the lifestyle that we live, because we train hard and a lot of hours, we travel a lot, and we are up all night. That RPMs is always kind of getting towards the red, and when we're always training there, we're always living there, homeostasis tends to favor near the red. So we never really unwind. And so when we go to bed, our nervous system is still pretty active. It's still pretty pissed off. And we're not coming back down to that 1200, 1500 RPM when we're at idle. We don't really idle anymore. Our new idle is still pretty unhappy. So the big thing with sleep is the only way to get that, not the only, sleep is kind of the mechanism to get back down to homeostasis. Well, but then you're saying that it's kind of counterintuitive, because if I can't sleep and I can't get back down off the red, well, you're not giving me any takeaways, which is why it's such a difficult thing, is that we have, for us to recover truly, for us to get the hormonal response truly, we have to get into REM sleep, we have to get into deep sleep, and we have to do those things. So there's mechanisms, a way to do that, and simply put is this, and I'm not going to get too long into it, but we have to create a bedtime routine. And more than just, well, I'm on the iPad, I'm on the TV, I'm going to hurry up, brush my teeth, jump into bed. Well, no wonder why you can't sleep. There's specific light emitted from a TV and an iPad and your iPhone that basically it interferes with the delta waves in your brain. The delta wave, when you have delta wave activity, you sleep. And again, I'm getting way off a little bit, but the point is a few things that people do before they go to bed. Don't watch TV. You will typically not reach deep sleep. Stay off your phone, stay off your iPad 20 minutes before you go to TV. I'm not going to say 2 hours or 3 hours, but, and again, now I'll give you a snapshot. So my bedtime routine it's simple. And it's some stuff that people always typically do is, turn the lights off, have a protein shake, have a casein protein shake. I always have a hot shower. I use eucalyptus oil. I create triggers. The hot shower is a trigger for me to say, I'm going to go to bed and accept that. I use a eucalyptus oil. It creates a trigger. I do diaphragmatic breathing, that elicits relaxation, salvation, relaxation. That's all that Pavlov stuff. And then I brush my teeth, and all those sort of things, I've taken them out of my subconscious and said, These are things I'm going to do before I go to bed. So as you're going through these things, your body is saying, I'm doing this to go to bed. So people typically probably already do that. They turn lights off. A lot of athletes will have casein protein shake or something, muscle milk, whatever it is. They'll brush their teeth. Some people will shower, some people won't. But just create triggers. And then when you get to bed, you're ready to sleep. You're more ready to sleep. Now I can get really complex. So come to Summer Strong 8, and I'll give everybody the absolute recipe. I'm going to break this down entirely on sleep recovery. On summer, that's going to be more or less my presentation. So come to Summer Strong or look for the video after the fact. So, but again, it's a real long-winded question, and I'm willing and able and capable of answering those questions, but keep it simple. Create a bedtime routine, or accept the fact that the things you're already doing is your bedtime routine. And create maybe one or two things that is a trigger. Like I use eucalyptus oil, like I mentioned. Maybe it is just your protein shake. Maybe it's the taste, the mint taste of your toothpaste. It's a trigger. So use it. Those things are all in front of us. Yawning is a trigger because it elicits salvation, relaxation through the diaphragm. If you're going to yawn before you go to bed, embrace the yawn. Don't try to stop yourself from yawning. Yawn as big as you can. It sounds silly, but it absolutely is. It's factually proven. So anyway, that's kind of really all I can say about that without going on for 30 more minutes.
So very serious about the sleep, and I'd started taking sleep more serious after watching you and listening to you. And then one thing that hit me hard was my buddy Joe Sena at Spartan. He goes, nothing good happens after 11 o'clock at night. And he's so right. Like you're not really effective at work. I mean, I'm not going to say I've never worked past 11 at night. I've done it. Sometimes I've truly had to do it. But knowing that I'm not going to be working late, it's just I'm that much more effective during the day. I want to close out with this question, which is, now you're super, super busy. You've got a family. You're running a gym, you're consulting in multiple directions, and a lot of people in general in this world, we've just gotten busy. Like we don't know, kind of what you mentioned earlier, we're on the go. We don't know how to stop. So people also love to hear from coaches as we're older and have kind of our past has beaten us up and we have injuries. You've got a lot of injuries. So how are you, balance is a tough word to use because I always say you can't really be balanced when you're trying to be great at certain things, although there's things you could put into place. So people love to hear like how guys like yourself are training now with a past with injuries. How are you balancing and making sure that you're being a good family man? Unfortunately, some coaches, they don't know how to do that because being an entrepreneur is so new to them that they take all that freedom and then they work, and then and that's something that's important to me because, as you know, being an entrepreneur and your time in the military, that stuff stresses family out immensely. So just talk about some things you're doing, I guess, to live a better life and to train and to still be strong with lessons, I guess, that you've learned and stuff from your experiences in life in general.
My recommendation for these they really are life-changing things. Training, whether it's in the gym or in a pool or on a bike or on the road, is just training. So I'm just going to call that training. Your diet is a lifestyle change, or it's part of your lifestyle. It's a big component of it. And then family. Those are the three, not in that order because family is for me is always first, but that's why I'm listing that last, is that and all those things are valuable for you to pay attention to if you're a young entrepreneur, if you're a young coach, a strength coach, whatever it is that because if you do not focus on those things, even in part to begin with, you'll get too consumed. So all of those things, especially family, is you before you go down this road of starting your own business, or if you're already in your own business, start cutting out time specifically for your family, for your own training, for your own diet, keeping up your diet early and do it often. And so my point is like my partner and I, when we started this, we're like, everyone's going to pick a day off a week. We're not going to be open. We're not open on Sundays at all.
Yep.
And everyone's going to pick a day of that week that you don't come in and don't deviate from it, right? Unless there's times where you kind of maybe have to meet with somebody and it's an hour or two, but typically we're spending 12 to 14 hours a day here. So like my off day is Thursday. I come in the morning if my son's in school. Otherwise, I don't come in. It's just my off day. Sunday, the same thing. Sunday, we might come in and clean a bit, but that's important. So take time off and do it often, because if you're in the business, and we've all seen this, you start your own business and you're a year in, your wife and kids don't ever see you. So cut out time for that. Now, when it comes to your people, like for training, for example, that's a priority for me. And it doesn't have to be a 2-hour marathon type session, but I'm going to carve out some time every single day where I have to train, because a couple things. I'm not a big believer in if can't, do, teach. I'm 35. I say do. Don't and teach. I say do and teach. And then that's what I believe in. And then as far as my diet or anybody else's diet is, if a person's unhappy with their diet or whatever, so people are very possessive of those three things: family, diet, and how they train. If you come in and say, all right, scrap everything you're doing, start over, well, there's very few people that are going to be very successful, because it's going to be too overwhelming. So small things. When you're talking about diet, we're talking about family, and your training. Start out little. I mean, if you're running your own place and you can't find the time, well, time is there. You just might have to look at it differently. Like, I don't have 90 minutes typically to just get in, take my time through a workout, have a great workout. Well, no, I got 45 minutes till my next team comes in. I've got to use that time or I'm not going to get it. So there is time, but the time frame might be very different. You may not have those 90-minute windows anymore. If you have 30, do it. And I think that's the big thing, is because you'll be much like exactly like what you're saying is, if your training day only allows you to do push-ups, push-ups as many as you can, or pull-ups, but in between all your clients, well, by the end of the day, if you're fueled, typically, your body, physiologically, your body doesn't care. Your body's you're getting the reps.
Yes.
Do it. I mean, that's exactly how my college or my high school wrestling coach got to me. It was like, I know all of you guys are going to have to practice. You're going to go home, you're going to eat, or some of you can't, and you're all going to sit down and watch Monday Night Football. Well, every time there's a first down, do 15 push-ups on both sides of the ball. And like you said, you almost pray for the time that Dan Marino or John Elway weren't playing, because they were going to score 40 points, right? So it was like little things, and they really do make a difference, and especially in the eyes of your athletes. Your athletes do pay attention to who is training them. If they look like they can't do anything but teach, well, that's how they're going to. I still, to this day, I say I'll out-train my own athletes. And that was Dan Gable's mentality. He was like, I'll retire when one of my guys can beat me. And somebody beat him finally with 63, and he did. He became an assistant athletic director. One of his wrestlers beat him at 63. So it's it's a mentality thing, and it's a beautiful thing. So I say embrace it.
Yes. So, and I'm a big believer in what you just said, like the chunking of workouts, because sometimes life happens, and I also give that advice to my athletes, especially the new ones. Say you're going to wake up, you're going to do 5 push-ups, and honestly, some kids, I say, you're going to do 1 push-up. Yeah. You're going to, then after school, you will do 1, because I want 1 perfect push-up, not 1 and then 4 halfway down. Yeah. And then I said, this week is 1. Next week is 2 a couple times a day. And then next week is 3. And I tell them, when you do 5 push-ups compared to 1, doesn't sound like much, but I go, that's 400% stronger than what you were 3 weeks ago. Right. So I like to look at the little things. A lot of coaches and just entrepreneurs, people in general, strong life, I'm a big believer in reading books that inspire, books that educate, Stephen Pressfield books. I'm just a crazy reader. Do you read? Do you read a lot?
Yeah, I was for a long time. I was a consumer at a absurdly fast rate. There was deployments, 3-4 months deployments where I would go through. I think my best is I went through 29 books in 4 months. I've slowed down a good bit in terms of like I guess, go to the bookstore, get a book. But I've really picked up my reading on professionals, my peers in my fields. Like obviously your book is one of them. And that's really, I'm consuming information at a rate for physiology and specifically neurology. I read a lot, but and books I would recommend, um, aside from your book, that would be definitely a good read. I like some of the older stuff to start out with. Is like one of them is like Dr. Yesis's book on with the secrets of the Russian weightlifting.
Yep, that's a right.
It's just kind of one of the like start there, and
It's
even
amazing.
like I got Eugene Sandow's books like from the 1830s, like way ahead of his time. And I just think it's very cool that sort of cultural, because there was culture, the story, the physical culture. We've kind of lost that. And so I think that I go back to that. And then some of the newer literature is good, but you just kind of got to pick your poison. I like textbook type stuff. Some of the let's see here. I mean, I got them all sitting behind me, but again, yes,
books,
I do.
Any books outside of our strength conditioning or just the body? What about life books or biographies of anybody, autobiographies?
Yeah, I would, I think most people have seen either Band of Brothers or The Pacific. The two memoirs in which The Pacific was largely based off of was, I was going to say Eugene Sandow. Eugene Sledge's book. It was With the Old Breed. It's one of the greats. I think it's because I think everybody should be humbled. Everybody. And that book will humble you. And then Robert Leckie, his book, Helmet for My Pillow. Those two books were basically, again, the bulk of what the Pacific television show was off of. And if you're an American and you have red blood, those are kind of like, those are books that will really put a perspective on what family and love of country is. It's pretty powerful.
That's cool. I will link those up. And what was I going to say? Give everybody, for people that might be in Virginia Beach area and just people all around, some of the people that actually reached out to me to connect with you were not from the States. They were from all overseas. So follow me on Facebook. So some people might want to consult with you. So give us like the best ways to connect with you.
The best way really to reach me or my facility, again, it's here in Virginia Beach. Our website is virginiahp.com. So high performance, so Virginia High Performance, but we just obviously HP. It's much easier to type. virginiahp.com. You can follow the links and get a hold of me. We have a Gmail account attached to that. We also, our Facebook page is Virginia High Performance. It's on Facebook, and that's a really easy way for us to get a hold of. And that's, it's talking about marketing. I have someone kind of monitoring it for me because I'm not very good at it. I mean, like I said, if I spend a lot of time traveling and coaching and on the floor, and it's a kind of a struggle because you want to, be involved with your clients, but it's a tough, but those are the best ways to get a hold of me is find us that way.
Cool. So everybody listening, go to undergroundstrength.tv. I will link up show notes for Jeff and Virginia High Performance. We're going to be at Soar Next Summer Strong in South Carolina. If you guys just go to soarnext.com, there's info there. And also you could get Jeff's past presentation, the one on sleep and Juggernaut Strength. Those guys are carrying it. I'll link that up. I'm going to link up the Instagram for Virginia High Performance. And for people that want to learn, reach out to Jeff Nichols, and we will link that up. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, listening, and supporting the show. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.